Hey everyone, I am Karen Barnett, author of the Vintage National Parks novels, and today I am stop number 4, I believe, on the Courage Chronicles. And so I am excited, I'm going to say, but also a little nervous about taking on this painting project that we're all doing. And I think it's out of all of our comfort zones, except maybe Joanne, who's going to help us at the end. And I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be something new. We're all creative types, so we're willing to take on something new, even if it scares us. And so today, talking about courage, I wanted to mention some themes of courage that are in my novels. I think it's something you find in a lot of Christian fiction because we're often talking about how God walks us through various trials in our lives. That's a common theme in Christian fiction. And so in my Vintage National Parks novels, it's often the characters facing something in their environment or something that is going on around them. In fact, in the second novel of the series, Where the Fire Falls, that is out right now, my heroine is actually a watercolor artist. And much like Regina's character, which I found that was fun that we had that in common. And so if you want to read more about watercolors, not that I had any experience doing it, but I did a lot of research and talked to a lot of painters and a lot of artists to find out what it was like for them to paint and how they worked with the colors, how they worked with their tools, and it was fascinating to me. Unfortunately, it didn't teach me how to do it, so we'll see how this turns out. But the novel I'm giving away as part of the Courage Chronicles is my upcoming novel called Everfaithful, and it is set at Yellowstone National Park in the 1930s. And I was excited to take this novel, well, I would say forward in time, because I've written, the other two novels in this collection are set in the 20s, and this one is set in the 1930s. And so it's the Great Depression, and I wanted to tell the story, a little bit of the story of the Civilian Conservation Corps, and some of the work that was done during the Great Depression in a lot of our national parks and other public lands. And so if you spend much time in our national parks or state parks or BLM land or any of our wilderness areas, you have probably experienced some of the work that the Civilian Conservation Corps did in the 30s. And so this book is going to talk a little bit about how that project got started and what it was like for the guys who were shipped out of the cities and off into the wilderness to go work. And so it does tell a story of one young man who does that. But he's not the only one who shows courage in this novel. The heroine, whose name is Elsie, actually has a dream that God has placed on her heart. She is the daughter of a park ranger, but she dreams of becoming a teacher. But for most people during that time, in the 30s, there wasn't a lot of money around, and as the daughter of a federal employee, she didn't have a lot of extra money, so going to college was a struggle. And so she actually worked for years after high school to save money. She worked in the hotels at Yellowstone to save money so that she could go to college. And she always dreamed of pursuing this dream that God had given her to become a teacher. But just like in our lives, sometimes there are self-doubts that we face as to whether we can actually accomplish the dream that God gave us. And there are also people in our lives that sometimes don't think that that's the best idea for us. And so Elsie is facing both of those in the story of Everfaithful and has to figure out whether or not she should keep pursuing and whether she's going to have the courage to follow this dream that God has placed on her heart to become a teacher. And so that's the book that I will be giving away for Courage Chronicles. It comes out June 18th, and so you might have to wait a little bit in order to get your copy, but this will be on its way to you if you are the winner. And one other thing I wanted to say about Everfaithful and about following the dream that God gave you is that I recently spoke at a women's retreat, which, that takes a lot of courage for me to become a speaker. But our key verse for the week was about courage, and that was actually our theme, was living the fearless life. And so in the book of Isaiah, in chapter 41, they talk about, this is actually God speaking, and if you listen for the words, I am and I will, those are both repeated twice in one verse. And so listen for God's words of what he's going to do in the face of our fears. So this is Isaiah 41:10. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. So today I'm taking on a project that I don't feel capable of, and I know this seems silly, like this is not a really big fear to sit here and paint like a preschooler, but it is symbolic to me of the big fears that are in our lives, that we can't face what God has given us. Either we can't handle it, or we're not good enough to accomplish the big dreams that he has given us. And the thing is that God says that it's not up to us, and that's the good news. Is that in 2 Corinthians 12:9, he said, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, that Christ's power may rest on me." So how neat is that? That it's not up to us. And so that takes a lot of the fear out of it. So here we are, back at the painting, representing the big fears in our lives. And I have to remember it's not all up to me. Thankfully, there are 5 of us working together on this project. And I'm going to start now. And I'm just going to do a little bit, and then I'm going to turn off the video because I think having this camera facing me while I'm trying to paint is probably not the best for my concentration. But I'm just going to start just a little bit. Here we go. So I could just, like, that's what the painting's going to see as I come toward it with the paintbrush. And I get to put on, this is actually kind of funny because they're only trusting me with one color here. And so Regina had to do several colors. And then thankfully my section is fairly easy. I'm just doing a single color in the bottom section, but when it comes together with what everyone else is doing, I think it's looking pretty cool already. Hey! Maybe I should start trying to do this too. Maybe God can give me the courage to take up a new hobby here. Hey, this is going to be fun. Okay, so I can't wait for you all to see what we have come up with. I don't think it's going to be spectacular because none of us have had practice at this, but I think it'll be fun to see what we have all put together and to see how courage plays into all of our stories. And thankfully, Joanne Bischoff is next, and I think she has some painting experience, so she gets to do the hardest part, which is the finishing touches, the little detail, and I can't wait to see what she does with our project. So thank you everybody for joining me, and I'm going to keep painting.